Welcome back. Today we'll be delving deeper into the 2015 movie, The Big Short. This American biographical crime comedy drama is based on a true event and tells three distinct, yet connected tales of the 2005 U.S. mortgage housing crisis. The banking industry, according to Jared Vennett, is incredibly dull. Louis Ranieri's concept for mortgage-backed securities, which promised greater returns with fewer risks, because everyone was making mortgage payments, changed everything, until the global financial crisis struck in 2008. This was a significant event for bankers. Vennett continues by saying that a select few people anticipated this. The rich hedge fund manager Michael Burry is shown in the following scene interviewing a young analyst in his office. Burry claims that his wife has advised him to share more. He talks about growing up with a glass eye after an ailment caused him to lose his natural eye. As a youngster, we watch him participating in a football game and feeling humiliated when one of his eyes is lost. Burry goes on and on about how the property market increased even though the IT bubble crashed in 2001. On the spot, he hires the analyst and gives him instructions to compile a list of the 20 most popular mortgage bonds. The scene changes to a counseling session when Mark Baum walks in and commandeers the conversation by ranting to everyone about a recent incident with a retail banker about his bank's overdraft regulations and how he is treating working people unfairly. Baum hates those who work for large banks, especially because his brother committed himself after being taken advantage of. Later, he contacts his wife Cynthia to vent his frustration. She is accustomed to hearing about his frustrations, but she still believes he should quit his work. Baum next hails a taxi from a different man. Burry completes his homework and goes over the list he requested. When he learns that subprime loans, whose borrowers are offering lower returns, are supporting the housing market, he figures he can bet against it and make money from it. Vennett brings us to a woman taking a bubble bath and drinking champagne to explain that subprime means shit and that the banks invented them to add more mortgages to their plans. This is a proper explanation of what a subprime loan is. Burry then approaches other institutions, beginning with Goldman Sachs, to communicate his belief that the bonds will default and to establish a market for credit default swaps. The bankers roll with his bet because they believe the bonds are safe. Lawrence Fields, Burry's supervisor, is troubled by his concept because he is worried about what it will do to their own company. After finding out about Burry's activities, Vennett meets with Baum and his group of investors, Danny Moses, Porter Collins, and Vinnie Daniel, and pitches the concept of the credit default swap to them. He explains that CDOs can be created by combining all the bad bonds. Vennett compares CDOs to constructing a seafood stew out of a bunch of fish that didn't sell all that well by bringing us to Anthony Bourdain to explain CDOs. After Vennett departs, Baum and his crew debate whether to heed his advice. Young, aspiring investors Charlie Geller and Jamie Shipley are introduced to us as they wait to meet with a JP Morgan Chase representative. They struggle to advance without an ISDA agreement, though. Disappointed, they discover a pitch from Vennett about how the housing market is a bubble, which, according to Shipley, isn't exactly how they learned about it, since they lack the experience to execute the transactions necessary to profit from this. They decide to get on the credit default swap bandwagon and hire retired trader Ben Rickert to assist them. Moses and Collins visit an area to look for foreclosed homes. They run upon a renter who concerns about losing his son to eviction. Moses and Collins enter a house with an alligator in the pool before another house with a past due notice paper in the kitchen. Fields confronts Burry about his prediction that his idea would collapse in 6 years. He and the other investor want a refund of their investment, but Burry won't budge. Further investigation by Baum and his team into the housing market, which includes meetings with a real estate agent, 2 mortgage brokers, and even a stripper, leads Baum to the conclusion that the market is truly in a bubble. Mortgage default rates reportedly hit a record high at the beginning of 2007. Risk assessors tell Baum and his team to abandon their swaps. Daniel is told by Baum to fuck off to them. The two question Standard Poor's officer Georgia Hale about providing banks AAA rates on subprime loans when they meet with her. Baum criticizes her conduct, but she responds by pointing out that he and his team are the owners of numerous credit default swaps. She defends herself by asserting that the banks would default if they didn't receive such ratings. Due to an increase in mortgage defaults, Vennet advises Baum and his group to stop trading, and Geller says the same to Shipley. Both Shipley and the team share their unfavorable opinions. As Vennet instructs his men, Rickert advises the lads to travel to Las Vegas to attend the American Securitization Forum. For the forum, both groups travel to Las Vegas. Baum spends his time questioning the powerful people about their dealings. When Shipley meets with Evie, a girl he knows who works for the SEC, she replies that the SEC does not look at mortgage bonds. Burry becomes increasingly morose as he continues to learn that bonds aren't going down and that the whole system is fraudulent. Geller, Shipley, and Rickert then plan to short eight tranches. They make many deals with many bankers, but as Geller and Shipley celebrate, Rickert reminds them that eventually, the market will collapse and millions of people will be hurt from it. The realization hits the two deeply. In a casino, Baum meets Mr. Show, a businessman, and discovers that he has manufactured synthetic CDOs, which are a sequence of increasingly large wagers on dubious loans. Baum gradually comes to the realization that the economy is about to crash. Then, Richard Haller and Selena Gomez explain what a synthetic CDO is by drawing an analogy between it and people betting on Selena winning at blackjack when her odds are looking high, only to lose when she delivers a poor hand. Everyone is getting ready for the inevitable. By April 2007, investors are unable to withdraw their funds thanks to Burry. Geller and Shipley visit the press and other organizations to warn them about the collapse, but no one is eager to look into the matter further. Baum and his crew are instructed to abandon their swaps or sell them. By the end of 2008, the market economy had, as expected, collapsed. But everyone participating in the short positions had made enormous profits from the swaps, even though none of them were particularly proud of it. Several banks start to close. As Burry leaves his position, one of his analysts accepts a position at a 7-Eleven. The man Moses and Collins earlier visited is currently residing in a van with his wife and son. Geller and Shipley are no longer optimistic about the system. Baum cites a bailout taking place, which Vennet affirms to be real, and that the banks were able to maintain their reputations by blaming immigrants, the poor, and even teachers for the awful things. Daniel then advises Baum to sell their swaps, but Baum believes that doing so will make them just as terrible as the banks. Despite Daniel's assertions to the contrary, then Baum orders him to sell every single one. According to the text's conclusion, after the crash, $5 trillion had vanished from bond values, pension accounts, $401,000 savings, and real estate values. Only in the United States did 8 million lose their jobs and 6 million their houses. Mark Baum refused to admit "I told you so," and his group is still operating their fund as a unit. In an attempt to sue ratings companies, Charlie Geller and Jamie Shipley were laughed out of the offices. Although Geller moved to Charlotte to start a family, Shipley continues to run Brownfield, on an orchard. Ben Rickert and his wife reside. Michael Burry made multiple calls to the authorities to try if someone would inquire as to how he foresaw the impending collapse. He received no responses, but the FBI audited him 4 times. He solely invests in water these days. In 2015, a number of sizable banks started selling billions of CDOs since they were evidently unlearned in their corporate greed. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment and share our videos.